So this week is very much part of a transition out of collecting data into actually using data. It's very much a week that I design that you probably wouldn't get in most intro to research classes. And it comes out of this goal to make research seem more accessible, more reasonable to you. We've spent 7 weeks, 6.5 weeks now talking about how to collect your own data. But it's worth noting that you don't have to collect your data in order to make interesting research. Most of my published stuff comes from data that I found and collected online. And so this chapter, this week, gives you a bit of an introduction to what is available from a few different sources. But the chapter isn't complete. It doesn't have everything that's out there and available. And you might look at it and what I discuss and think, none of that's interesting and doesn't create any ideas for me. And that's totally fair. But you should know that what I go over is just the tip of the iceberg. And it becomes a skill knowing what is out there and holding all of that in your mind and being able to go on the hunt for news sources. In one of the early chapters, I talk about this, the dance back and forth between coming up with questions and looking for data, finding a data source, and that creating new questions. And you go back and forth between those things. And so it goes both ways. It'd be a very old model and a very 1950s model to say, first you develop a question and then you spend months collecting the data to answer it. If you can't find that data that already exists, if you can find the data that already exists, that really speeds up the process significantly. And just because you can find interesting data out there doesn't mean that that data is able to answer your question. And so like I was saying, this blends into next week really well. Of course, we'll have to have the midterm, and I've posted more details about that online. But after that, we're going to actually start working with data. We're sort of going to assume, as we move into the second half of this course, that we've collected our data, and now we have to do something with it. The exciting thing to me, or one of the most exciting things, isn't just collecting data, it's answering questions. And so I want to show you with that final chapter is that you can go out and get data very quickly. And it isn't a far off question that you have to go and run your own survey. There's data out there right now that you can use. So that means it's even more important to have an idea of what to do with it. So you might say, why do we have to spend all that time learning how to collect data if we don't actually have to collect our own data? And I'd love to run an advanced seminar in the future where we just start from that point. And just start from the idea that we have lots of data and let's work with it. But it's necessary. It's really, really necessary to know what went into collecting the data. Was the survey sample representative? How did the wording of a question impact the results? Those are all questions you have to be aware of whether you collect the data or not. So all that background information is critical, even if you just are able to skip to this point in the research process. Go ahead and trim it.